Well, just a couple things. Thank you about the. I'm gratified about what you felt about that compositing course because what you came away with was exactly what my intent was, and so I'm really happy that the intent I set that up for actually worked out. Um, I'm going to be talking in our discussion here. I'll be spending a little bit of time going through each of the division requirements a little bit beforehand. I think we have some newer people who have joined us, and so I'm looking. So you may find that I start a little bit of preamble about these. Like for creative, we got creative division here. Now, generally in creative, there are three types of images you normally see in this division. First is reality seen in a creative way. And it's not that you're doing anything special to the image or modifying it, but the creative process is how you see reality and chose to show us that. The second type we often see is reality augmented somehow with filters or imaginative coloration and such that tells an interesting story. And the third thing you often see is alternate realities created by the inclusion of several different images. So composites of different images to create an alternate image. Now, this doesn't mean that there are other types of creative images as well, but these are the ones you see the most. And so just give you a feeling. So you don't have to be a great Photoshop editor to still have some very creative shots. You just have to have a good eye and a little bit of creativity in how you see the world. Okay, thank you. Okay, for the
So,
journalism, here it was described to me at one point that the key feature for journalism is your reporting on an event. Who, what, when, where, why, how are things that between your image and the caption you need to try to address as best you can. So the question as you look at these things is to ask, what's the event that's being reported on and how well is the image and caption describing that? So that's what I'll be looking for in the journalism. Thank you.
Mitch.
Okay, now nature.
Whoops.
That's okay. That's okay. Nature division is not just a place to park images of critters. It's designed and it was intended to be a place to highlight and to demonstrate unique characteristics of animals or unique behaviors of animals or attributes, let's say their coloration that allows them to survive. So something unique about the animal needs to be shown in the image. If you show images where it's just this gorgeous animal just sitting there and there's nothing in the coloration or anything to mention on it, then that may be more appropriately a pictorial. Now, it's also noted that in the nature division, the travel division, and pictorial divisions, image quality is not as critical as it might be in the creative, monochrome, or projected. Because we know that since you can't do a lot of post process editing on these images, they're harder to get. And sometimes you need to live with the imperfect image you have. But this is only true when the image quality does not interfere with the story. Now, pictorial. In some councils or photographic organizations such as PSA, the pictorial division is anything goes. And that's not exactly how we've defined it in N4C. In N4C, we define a pictorial as the use of photography as an art form in the presentation of images. So one of the things I look for in pictorial is, aside from anything going, I'm looking for its artistic application in shape, manner, form. Doesn't mean it has to be there. Doesn't mean I degrade it if it isn't. But I tend to images that contain that. I tend to grade a little bit higher for this division. Okay, thank you. Because clubs often ask me this: how could I, in my critique or comments, mention about a whole bunch of stuff I liked or didn't like, yet I may still give it a second, third, first place? Okay, why don't they always match up? And the answer is my considerations and thoughts, which go into my comments, are about that image and how effective it might be at telling your story. And it's uniquely about that image. When I'm asked to do the ranking, which is the thing I like to do the least,
Mhm.
now it's a relative judgment. And it might be less about the quality of the image and more about how that image ranked about the other images that happen to be there. And so they don't always match up. And if I could ask you to take any take-home message, ignore the first, second, and third place rankings. They're nice to have, but I hope my comments were adding a lot more meat and substance to our art of photography, and that's my objective. And so, Joel, I have a question for you.
Yes.
In your Albuquerque one with the green light, how much of that was natural lighting, and how much was that you enhanced a little bit,
That was day to night.
day to night?
Day to night. That started out as a day image, and I turned it into a night image because I knew you are our judge and our compositing teacher. So I was looking for some critique on that. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like the fact that I should tone it down a bit. So I may do
yeah.
that.
Did you add the lighting, or did you just add the color?
I added lighting, and the color was actually pretty much of that nature during the day,
Okay.
and I added a lot of lighting, and I did a lot of you know
The one thing
using filters.
one thing I did find is that the lighting didn't always make a lot of sense in terms of the flow of the light from the source to what it was on.
Okay,
It was it was sort of blotchy, and I was looking hard to see if I could identify where the lighting was coming from.
yeah.
And I was having a
Well,
hard time doing that. I've done some of the day to night work,
yeah,
and I think it's wonderful. And there's an English photographer, I'm blanking his name, who does that
yeah.
very
I've watched a lot of his YouTubes, and it's
Matheson.
as you know, it's a lot of work.
It is, but it's a fun story. You take a daylight image and you make it night,
Right.
and you work on each of the individual lights, and you may have 4 or 5 different layers with each
Right.
light. Not only the light itself, but the bulb, or then how it shadows, and you're forced to really think about how the light is impacting the surrounding areas, and the fall off of light as it gets farther away, where the shadows affect. And so it's a fun exercise. I thought
Yeah.
that one I just couldn't connect the sources of the lights to to where it was coming from, and so it just had sort of a surrealistic feel to it.
It's a fair criticism. I'll try another one another time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's a great effort.
Hey,
Other
Any
Charlie.
questions?
questions?
Charlie, this is
Yes, sir.
Peter Nichols, and the English photographer is, I think, Jamie Mathlin,
Yes.
Yes.
and the image that I put in tonight about the night scene, Sally Lunn's, was actually a street in Bath that was taken in the daylight. So I'd done the same to that,
Mm.
and I'm glad you picked up on the. I got the lighting a little bit wrong, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it should have been a little more yellow
Yeah.
in the street. But that's one
Yeah,
of the challenges you face, right? You've got to get the
right,
lighting
right,
right.
right.
Yeah,
It's a sort of, and again, either I mean, I actually took the image, and I often do that. Is when I see an image like that and I have a suggestion how to make, I download it and edit it myself to see if my suggestions are actually going to move me
right.
in the direction I hope it did. And I felt that helped a lot. It's sort of that last step of the color grading, but you could actually just do it on the street there, and I think it would blend it together
Yeah,
more effectively. But I love where you're going. I mean, if that grebe shot wasn't so, if that grebe sequence wasn't so good, that would have been my next choice as the best in show. So excellent image. I really liked it. There was just that subtlety, and I like hearing that you guys are trying that day to night and type of thing. That's a
right.
real challenge, and it really does force you to think a lot about light and how it
Yeah.
works and falls on there. And it's easy to miss something like that, Peter. But that was an excellent effort. I really enjoyed that shot.
Well,
Charlie, hi, it's Rich James. Thanks so much for being here. You know, one of the things you do so well is you make this such a learning opportunity, especially when before each category you explain what that category should be, and that works so well for especially for some of our beginners and intermediates who probably just don't have it quite down yet. So I do appreciate all your comments, the depth of your comments and the lightness. You have always got a little sense of humor behind you. So thanks for all of
Yeah, I've been there. Believe me. I've had
that.
judges point out and do things like that, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, he's right. How did I miss that?" So I've been there. I've made the same mistakes, and so it's not about right or wrong. It's like I said, I always like to think about how effective you are at telling your story. And I discovered that instead of saying good or bad, I almost never use those words. I like to talk about, I understand your vision.
Yeah.
Now, here's how effectively or ineffectively you did things. And my whole goal is to make your let me back up. I think the job of the photographer is to capture the scene in his image in the way they saw it. And there you
Mhm.
have your vision. There's no reality here because we all see things differently. And our camera sees them even differently besides what we see. And so it's really where your vision is and how effective can you tell that? The one on the blue plates, that was a wonderful shot. And I love where you were going with that, with a variety of patterns, and you were very effective there. But that busyness in the background really got in the way of telling your story a little bit. And those are the things that we learn as we advance there. We begin to learn to see in our images what other people see. And that is so hard.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of our basic and intermediate photographers, Charlie, are shooting with iPhones and are not using Lightroom, not using Photoshop, not using those tools. So we have to find them some, and frankly speaking, Adobe has gotten so expensive right now when they doubled their price last year for newcomers coming in, that we may have to teach people how to use some of the less expensive tools so that they're able to do the kind of things you've talked about.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. On One is turning out to be a good Photoshop
Yeah.
competitor. That's I don't know if they go into if they're in subscription pricing or not, but
Yeah, I think that's
um,
one of a couple we've looked at. Certainly, the Snapseed we're going to teach them will do some fundamental stuff, but not everything that you're talking about. Putting a blur on some sort of distraction in the middle, that would be a challenge with Snapseed.
right, yeah. But is you have to be when you start out with photography, you think that I can just capture the shot and it's going to tell my story,
Yeah,
and it gets us 60 to 70% there.
yeah,
But I mean, one of the most influential things that happened to me in my photographic career is I was at a presentation by Scott Kelby,
yeah.
and I was in Chicago, and I was at a presentation of his, and I'd been shooting for about 2.5 years, and I was just getting frustrated because none of my images turned out to be as good as all the ones I saw around me, and this and that. Until one day he said, "Let me show you what this image looks like right out of the camera." And he had this image of a air show where there were planes on the ground, and he had a gorgeous image. But then he showed me what came out of the camera, and I was floored because the very first thing is says, "Well, that's not that far from what I'm getting in my camera." And it gave me two immediate points that I just hadn't grasped. One of them was my expectations of getting that good shot right out of the camera was not realistic. That even the best photographers go that additional step in the processing to really make their images compelling and good images.
Yeah.
And no photographer gets it right out of the camera most of the time. There's exceptions, but it's by far not the rule. And the second part that I got was the importance of processing. So, as I described, someone asked me the question, why do you process? A really fundamental question. And I thought about it quite a while. I came up with all sorts of answers, but I finally realized that to me, my goal is to capture that scene as I saw it, as I felt it, what my vision of the scene. And the camera won't capture that. The camera will capture what it thinks it's there. How many times, you did the shot and then you look at it and go, where did the trash can come from? Where did the garbage can? Where did that stop sign come from? You didn't see it when you were there. You didn't feel it when you were there. And that's because humans are very poor observers. We've evolved to throw out 80% of what's in front of us, so we can focus on the 20% that might threaten us. So consequently, our minds, our brains are throwing out a lot of stuff in front of us. So when you take that shot and the camera captures it, but you don't remember it was there, that's that evolution. That's your mind doing what we evolved it to do.
Right.
And so to bridge the gap between what my camera captured and what I felt or what my vision was is the role of processing. And so it bridges the gap. Now, the closer I can get in capturing the image, the less I have to process. And if I don't start out with something good in the capture, then I'm sorry, we're all challenged to try to make, a purse out of a sow's ear. But in thinking about that I'm bridging the gap between what I captured or what I tried to capture versus where I wanted the image to go. That's the role of processing in many cases, and that tells me when to stop. A lot of people say, well, how do you know you're done with the processing? I'm done when I've achieved the best I can to what my vision was. So with beginning photographers who don't feel that processing is important, I think you're going to find a lot of disappointment that you aren't quite at the level of the compelling images you see around you with people who do it. And it's to my way of thinking, and you may think differently, and I acknowledge
Charlie,
that. Yeah, go ahead. Yes,
Charlie, I just wanted to add something to that, kind of in the same vein. I've done a lot of studying of Ansel Adams, and he said basically the same thing. What he says is that the negative, or in our case, the raw image, is basically the written score of a piece of music. The performance comes after the edit. So you can write down the music, how you hear it in your head, but then when it's performed, that's when the beauty comes out of it.
Yeah.
And that's when the true vision comes.
Right. And so I find that not a lot of people were able to answer truthfully the question of why do you edit? I mean, if I ask somebody why they edit, they go, they make a good picture. And well, why does that make a good picture? Because I like it. And I like to try to pull it back there. And I now know why I edit and where I'm trying to go with it. So now I have some guidance as to what to do, which buttons to push. How do I, if I got 999 different things I can do in Photoshop, how do I know what things to do?
Yeah.
I do the things that slowly pull me closer to where I want this to go. And now I have some guidance. Now I know when to stop.
And knowing when to stop, Charlie, is a challenge. I have to say, my toucans tangoing, I actually did have an earring on her, and I thought I had gone too far. So, sometimes I go and put way too many things in there. I overprocess it, and I back up a couple layers.
Yeah, no, there, and yeah. Here you struggled with that, and I suggested the one thing you didn't do, but it was an excellent shot and a lot of fun. What I did find that a bow in the hair or the earring would have blended the artificial with the natural a little bit more.
Yeah. Maybe I'll put
because
the earring back.
yeah, because in that shot, it's pretty stark, the difference between the artificial and the real.
Yeah.
And if you can blur that line a little bit by adding some of the other things, that would pull it together in a more cohesive picture. So that's the one reason why I was thinking like a bow in the hair or something, is that would have blurred that line, and I thought furthered where you were trying to go. But I thought it was an excellent image.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much, Charlie. I appreciate all the explanation. And we did make a recording, and I think the recording now is being stopped. And I'll